If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of the show is Ray Johns, American Patriot. You know, I want to do something that I did a while back for my, we do an American Patriot every week, and this week I want to feature Stan Filgus. Now, Stan Filgus, it makes me smile just saying his name. I don't even know where to start when you talk about this man. He's just a phenomenal individual. When he was 16 years old, he was a junior in high school at Roosevelt High School, and his father didn't want him to go in the service, and he finally relented and allowed him to go in at 16 years old, and they told him that they would send him, which they did, his diploma. He was like a junior, I think, in high school, and he ended up being a gunnery's mate on a destroyer. Now, can you imagine a 17-year-old kid with kamikazes coming at you and trying to shoot, and he was a gunnery's mate. I mean, he told me great stories. Stan Filgus could make a fortune with his stories. He tells the most wonderful stories. I miss his stories, and I miss you too, Stan. I really do. I miss you terribly. And I understand that you're in the Nazareth house now. I just found out. I called Mark Glenn, and he told me that today, and it saddened me somewhat. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I know you have my number. If you need to call me, if I can do anything for you, please let me know. But anyway, here was this 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid in World War II. I mean, you talk about a great American patriot, and we're going to talk about him throughout the show. I want to tell you how successful this man's business. He owned Filgus Carpet when he got out, and his wife Jean was very instrumental in that business. It was her suggestion to go from hardwood floors to carpet, and that's when the business kind of really took off. So it was a marriage of two great minds, and their children, oh my gosh, all their children, every single one of their children, and I think there was 7 or 8 of them are successful. They're all successful, every single one of them. Anyway, we're gonna talk about Stan Filgus on several different occasions here today because he's one of my favorite subjects. And back with me today is, of course, one of my favorite guests, Gary.
How you
Glad
doing,
to
Ray?
have you. I'm doing great, buddy.
Well, you're
How you doing?
good.
Well, I'm looking better than I looked last week.
Oh man,
I tell you, I was sick last week,
I
which
hear
is
that.
why we didn't do the show. And I had 102-degree temperature, and I certainly didn't want anybody to get
right.
that. And the doctor told me I have a great immune system. That's why I got over it so quick. So I
good.
guess I
Man,
did.
I'm happy for
But
that.
I feel 100% better than I did at this time. Gary and I were talking before the show took off, and Gary's. We're going to kind of open this show a little bit differently. Gary's going to talk about what if there were no liberals, what if there were no Democrats. And by the way, before he does that, please get out and vote. Okay, we've got some issues here in California. We've got some real issues in California. Let's try to turn this thing around for Mr. Nunes and for the governorship. Let's try to get some people in there that's going to make this state like Donald Trump is making the nation. Let's try and do that. So, Gary, let's start off with you, and let's start off with what if there were no liberals? What if there were no Democrats? Gary?
Yeah, I got to thinking about that the other day, what it would be like. And one of the things, and we'll go on with a number of them, but one of them is California would not have had a water shortage.
Absolutely not.
Had there not been those libtard,
Way to look at it.
Kind
of reminds you of that film, It's a Wonderful Life, with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
If he hadn't been around. I like this. Go ahead, Gary.
Well, and then then you have to ask yourself, would there be a global warming if there weren't any Democrats or those environmental wackos?
Yeah.
And then you have to get into some serious. Well, that is serious, but let's talk about at least the last 40, 50 years, shortage of water. At one time, I farmed out there with that shortage. Mm-hmm. Ray, all it was is just call up and order it.
Oh, I know.
And you didn't have to pay near what you have to pay today.
I think it was you that said on my show a year ago or so that There is no water shortage. There's no water shortage.
No.
There's a political shortage. That's what it is.
Well, that's caused by what?
Yeah.
So what if there weren't any of those people?
Yeah.
You'd never know there was a shortage.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, with Trump, when he signed that the other day, that water deal, people don't realize he created the equivalent of 1 million acre feet, the size of Pine Flat Dam. Storage is 1 million acre feet.
Uh-huh.
He created the same amount of equivalency of that without spending a dime other than the cost of the ink and that ink pen he
Isn't that
had.
amazing?
Now,
Isn't
now
that
he
just
didn't have to
amazing?
spend the billions for building dams and digging canals and head gates. You think about it; it is incredible.
It
what,
really is.
and that's just a political thing. And so then you got to ask yourself: would there be a catastrophic fires that we're having had there been no liberals,
Well, yeah.
tree hugger libtards? There wouldn't be. We wouldn't be having the fires like we have now if the forests were managed properly.
Sure.
Well, so then they say, well, he says that. How the heck does he know? There's proof of it.
Yeah.
There's a state that took a section of forest and managed it the way it should be managed and the way we were at one time here in California.
But that all changed drastically.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of that kind of. Well, you'd hear of a little forest fire here. We never really.
Not anything.
No, you didn't even hardly think about it. Okay, so let's go run the clock forward, and we have this mismanagement of our forest. Well, what they did is they took one section of this forest, and they left it like the liberals want it, and then they took the other section and managed it like it should be managed, like we've always done.
Yeah.
Okay, prior to, and so they lit those two on fire, and they used the same method to light both of them. They
Oh,
wouldn't-
my goodness,
You know,
Gary.
they wouldn't say so. So what they did is the one that was managed, they lit it using the same technique that they're going to use on the other one. Well, anyway, they lit that forest, and they had that fire put out in 15 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so we're talking about two forests exactly alike and being lit exactly alike. One was put out in 15 minutes. The other one, they lit it the same. It got out of control, and it burned 200,000 acres. And took, I don't know how long to put it out.
Bring it out under control.
Well, and then, we had a loss of life. I got a cousin that was awarded a medal. He was in this latest forest fire. And his buddy standing right next to him was killed.
Yeah.
Now, that life would not have been lost. And the houses, I was talking to a guy from up there, he said, you will not believe the houses that were destroyed and so forth. All because of ignorance, all because of mismanagement, all because of stupidity. Now, what if there was no libtards?
That wouldn't have happened.
That wouldn't have happened. And so we go forward, and we talk about, like I said, global warming. And would we have globalists? Our country has been literally raped for the last 50, 60 years because of the...
Well, absolutely.
Right? We're now seeing the results when it's not being raped.
Sure.
When we think of America first, and we're nationalists instead of globalists, what happens? Well, there wouldn't be any. We would have been people... We're talking about 40, 50 years. We're talking lifetimes of people having a prosperity that they never got
Yes.
to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's over. They don't get it. Maybe the future, but these people did not get that benefit. Would there be welfare as we know welfare if there was no Democrats?
There would be no need for it.
No, there would be no need.
No
for
need
it.
for it.
I mean, you'd have an assistance program like you could do, but you wouldn't even think about it. You wouldn't have that. Would the
3, 4, 5 generations on welfare.
would the prisons
Crying
be
out loud.
populated like they are today if there was no Democrat libtards? You start asking
This is all
that.
traced back to that. All these negatives that you
Well,
just said.
well, yeah,
Every
and
one of them.
And I could even go back. Would women have had to wait as long as they did to get to vote? Had there been no Democrats? Would the blacks had to wait as long as they did?
For civil rights and equality. You're
Yeah.
right. Absolutely.
In fact,
Without-
that would probably happen way
But you
back.
can't. But here's the sad part with me. Everything you said is right on and true. It's so difficult to convince these people of that. Because
Yeah.
it's so ingrained in them. We talked about that before.
Because here's one reason why. I'm not going to say the only reason, but one reason why is because would our schools be indoctrination factories
That's
instead
part
of
of it.
education factors if there were no liberals?
That's part of being ingrained.
90-some% of the teachers are liberals.
Yeah,
What do you think they're going to tell their
of
students?
course they are.
There wouldn't be any, would there? So when you start to look at it, but here's the one thing though you also think about. Would there be a Donald Trump had there not been for a Democrat liberal Obama?
Now that's an interesting question.
Because obviously what's going on in the country is just not, people can't even imagine. Nowhere in the world is anything ever been like it.
He is just, and it just gets better all the time. I mean, I tell people all the time, and especially African Americans, look what's happened. This is the lowest unemployment rate in what, Gary, 50 years?
No. Ever.
Ever. Isn't that amazing?
Same thing with Hispanics.
Oh,
Lowest ever.
Hispanics and African Americans, absolutely.
Asians, same thing.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And look at just take a look. I tell you every single week, do your own due diligence. Take a look at what's going on right in front of us all the time. This country is better. I shook some people up at GB3 the other day when I said this, and they said, you're right. I said, I personally think, and Gary and I have talked about, when's the last time you heard of ISIS? And I told the story of, I went to a major event, I think it was probably a Fresno State football game, and back when ISIS was just these, ISIS idiots were hurting people and bombing people. And I thought as I walked in, oh my God, this would be the perfect place for those idiots to bomb, to hurt a bunch of people. And the last time I went to an event like that, I didn't even think about it. He has done. That's just one of the things he's done. I told some people at GB3, I think they ought to give the man the Nobel Peace Prize, and I'll tell you why. Look what's happening in the Mideast. We may never live to see it, but there's going to be peace in the Middle East someday that they've never had, and it all started with Donald Trump. All of it.
Well, if you take like an example, like you mentioned the ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
This wouldn't come out of our press because our press is not going to do that.
No.
But it came out of a Canadian press. You know that there's been 600 violent terrorist-type attacks by the Democrats on Republicans?
No, I did not. That is
And that's coming from Canada.
That isn't. Give me those figures again, Gary.
600 violent attacks on.
I'm not surprised in a way. I am. In a way, I'm not. You know.
And but I think people are waking up. Like the other day, Trump had a rally down there in Houston, and people wanted to get in. You and I had to do it. You go on the internet and request a ticket, right? Mm-hmm. There was over 100. In fact, there was 109,000 requests for tickets to go to Houston for a arena that only holds 10,000 or something like that. Okay, now let's put that in perspective, though.
Okay.
And here's how we do that, because Obama's done the same thing going around.
Mm-hmm.
He's lucky to draw 200 or 300 people.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because why is it that he only draws that many? I mean, 200 to 300. Well, he hadn't got
anything to say.
Well, he's got that man. He's standing in line waiting to go to the bathroom.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, I'm confident about the change. I don't know whether it's coming so rapidly, you know. But I watched that. What they call walkaway,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking that people that come on there and put their videos on that walk away.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about.
And that's growing, isn't it? That's growing by.
And it cuts through every demographic you could think of.
Yeah.
And the other day,
it does.
The other day was interesting because I talked to a guy that was telling me about a professor here at Fresno State. He's a doctor and he's a libtard.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, how could he possibly be, with that much education, be a libtard?
That just goes to prove it doesn't matter how much education you got.
That goes to prove that, because I just had seen a video of this walkaway, and he was He was looked like a black gangbanger, and what he was doing was talking to other black. He was on one side, and these other black gang was on the other.
Yeah.
And he was articulating to them why he walked away and why it's so important and why they're wrong. And I'm telling you what, they did not have an answer.
Of course they didn't.
And you know, he didn't.
Good for him.
You know,
Good for that young man.
I don't know if the kid even graduated high school. I don't know. He didn't speak all that
well.
But
he
that
saw-
wasn't
he-
necessary.
See,
Yeah.
now we just talked about that across all genres. Now that's what an example.
Well,
Here
that
you've
was
got
a
a kid
perfect example.
that's not educated, but yet he sees this.
Right.
You know,
And he sees
that's
that.
amazing to
and
me.
plus, he was arguing and presenting it to those other group. Now, at first, that other group was pounding.
Oh, yeah.
As it went on, then you looked at the other group, and boy, they were they were silent
Yeah.
because he was talking about things like we just mentioned, you know, and so. You know, you go back to a Democrat. Would there ever been a KKK? You know, you think about that. That certainly wasn't going to come out of the people of the North.
No, absolutely. It was
Okay,
not.
and then you have to ask yourself a number of things in that regard. You know, the people you'll find, like for instance, Planned Parenthood. There would be no Planned Parenthood if there were no Democrats.
Well, there would be no need. When
No,
you think about it. There'd be
and
no need.
I'm starting to look into that genocide deal. That lady come right out and said it back then, who Hillary backs.
Yes, yeah.
And this gal said that you know, with this abortion thing, they could abort black people, and they have. And you know, the population actually is not growing
Yeah.
like everybody else because of that Planned Parenthood thing. I mean, that's murder.
Well, yeah, it is.
I mean, what else is it? How come they could justify that murder, but they can't justify something that makes sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know. And let's talk about the caravan coming up. That's not
Oh,
a caravan. That's an
yes.
invasion.
Yes. Let's talk about that. In fact, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little break here, and we're going to come back. We're going to continue to talk about my good friend Stan Philga. Stan, I hope you're feeling well today, buddy. I really do. I miss you. I really hope you're doing good. You are an American patriot. You're what this country's all about, buddy. You and Gene. So, thumbs up to you. Anyway, we're going to come back. We'll be back in like 2 and 2.
At least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless.
Okay, I'm back with Gary, and we're talking about what if there were no liberals, and which I love. It reminds me of the old movie. I couldn't think. It's a Wonderful Life when Jimmy Stewart, you know, like the angel came down and there was no Jimmy Stewart, and he defected all these people. Well, Gary, this is kind of reverse of that, but it's really funny. I'm enjoying doing this.
Well, it's something to think about, and you can just keep going on because the thing is the evidence. And here's the thing about it: why would somebody that's living in a free country? I could see if they didn't know any better, didn't have, but says, "Well, I'm in a socialist country. I'm going to go over to this country that has a little better than this. We're both socialists."
Yeah.
But why, living in a free country, do you want to go socialist? It doesn't make it. Especially now, we have evidence now. Way back when Russia did the communist thing, we didn't have the evidence. But now we've had the evidence of the failure in Russia, the failure in China, the failure in Cuba, and we go on and on.
It's always
And now we're presently having a very abject failure in Venezuela. That people can just see it. Why would you want to be like that?
This is a once prosperous country, Venezuela,
You'd have people-
and they're a third world country now.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's a perfect example of going from
Right.
one extreme
I mean,
to another.
I mean, what kind of common sense do you have, other than to say you have none, when you see a horde of people coming out of there wanting to come into this country?
What does that tell you?
What does that tell you? How come it's not going the other way? How come we're not marching down to Venezuela? Why aren't you meeting that caravan coming and you wave at those guys that are going? That's what these Democrats want.
Oh.
Well, how come they're not on a caravan going down there? You got to ask yourself, would there be the ghettos that we have today? I call them ghetto plantations. Would we have those today had there been no Democrats?
I love it, Gary. And the answer to that is no.
No, because people would have said, "Hey, God helps those who helps himself. You don't be laying there on that. Heck, you're a big 24-year-old strapping guy, and you're sitting on the street corner. No, you get out and go to work."
Absolutely.
But here's the thing: people are going to work. What's happening now? They're starting to get all the good things that comes with.
Take
that.
a look at what's going on. That's my other thing about voting. Get out and vote next weekend. It's very important. My mother had a saying that if you didn't vote, then you didn't have a voice. And I truly believe that. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. You shouldn't say anything about what's going on in this country.
I have a little different attitude toward that vote. If you're not going to vote for what's right, stay home.
Yeah, I like that attitude too. I like them both. But go out and vote. Let's make some changes in the state of California. Let's make some changes. We need some changes here. We need to follow in Donald Trump's national footsteps. Is what we need to do.
Well, it's going to happen down the road one way or another.
It is.
Because they can't exist the way it is.
No.
That's the thing you can count on. Any socialist country, eventually it fails.
Yeah.
Some longer than others.
Yeah, like you said, we've got proof.
Yeah, and there's proof of it. It'd be different, but then how in the world then, if you have the proof and you have the evidence and you have all that right staring you in the face, and you have an example presently right there picking on Venezuela?
Yeah.
How in the world can you turn around and say, "Well, I'm going to vote for somebody that makes it like Venezuela"? How do you do that? I don't know.
It amazes me, and how much power the press and the social media has over these people. Unfortunately, they believe what they see on CNN. They believe what they read in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and the New York Times. They believe these things.
Well, that's a big deal.
And that's a sad part about it.
Well, propaganda is what makes all countries that become communism or socialism all have to do it with propaganda.
Well, sure.
And they use the media to do it, of course, because
that's the easiest and the most effective way.
Yeah, and so they turn around and, like fake news. I mean, there's much stuff that they omit. They'll omit an important part.
They'll omit the truth. We know that.
Yeah, they'll omit. Trump said this, but then they'll omit what he really said.
Yeah.
And he said at the end, they'll cut the sentence off.
Absolutely.
I talked to a guy yesterday. All he watches is CNN. Although it's kind of interesting, though. He's a Trumper. Mm-hmm. I don't know where he could be a Trumper and sit there and watch CNN. I said, I don't think.
I won't watch it. I
don't watch any of it. To me, Fox News is getting to where they have.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah,
I've noticed that too, Gary.
Well, they're owned by globalists.
Yeah.
That Murdoch, he's part of the global deal.
Oh, sure he is.
And
just as much as Soros is.
Well, yeah, I mean, those people are all in one club. You know how many are in that actual club?
I have no idea.
Okay, now we're talking about a lot of power, right?
A lot of power.
Well, not just the United States, but all over the world.
Yeah.
Okay. The estimate of how many who are the real leaders, because they're in it for themselves. Mm-hmm. They are not in it for you. What makes Trump different? Americans first.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Mm-hmm. They're not in it. They're for me first, and then this is who we use to.
Will change.
Well, they're against Donald Trump for one reason only, is because he is for the people.
Yeah.
And not for them.
Yeah.
Now, if Donald Trump got up there and was like George Bush,
or Barack Obama,
or Hillary Clinton, now they'd love him.
Yeah.
In fact, they did love him at one time, because he was on that side of the ledger.
All those three people that you Bush, all the way back through Clinton, every one of those people, and you cannot see it, ladies and gentlemen, were puppets.
Yeah.
They were puppets for these people. Barack Obama didn't do anything.
Right.
Hillary Clinton was going to be worse. Bill Clinton didn't do anything. Goes all the way back to Jimmy Carter, who did absolutely nothing. I said something to somebody one day. I said, I think Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter are good people. I think they're basically good men. I think they're awful presidents, but they were good. I think they were good-hearted.
I don't know.
And they were just pushed around by the globalists, by the people that controlled them.
I don't know. I don't see much good in either one of them.
Yeah.
Because if there was, then they wouldn't have done what they did.
Well, they were They were puppets.
Well, that's it.
No.
So how good is that? Not very good. And but when we look at when you look at it from the standpoint of what the globalists are for, they're for themselves, but they require useful idiots.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, if you understand the definition of what all is entailed in this globalist thing, and the Democrat Party, right, which has become that.
Yeah.
What is the Democrat Party? It's nothing but useful idiots serving the globalists of that 8,000 to 8,500 people. That's all they are.
Everything. Yeah.
And so, they're elitists, and they look down on you. And I'll give you a perfect example of that the other day with Hillary Clinton, and she spoke for a ton of Democrats. Mm-hmm. She spoke for a ton of liberals when she said they all look alike, don't they?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I heard about that.
She spoke. She didn't realize, but she spoke for all those people. That's what they do. That's what they think. They're elitists. They don't see you as an equal.
You know, I think it was.
I'm talking about both white and.
Oh, I know. You know, the guy that wrote the book, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for not remembering his name, but he was an ex Secret Service guy. It was signed to her. Remember?
Oh,
and
yeah.
He came out, and boy, I tell you,
I remember that.
He told a whole bunch of stories about her that
Right.
really kind of put her,
Right.
you know, showed you what kind of person she was. You know.
So then you have to ask yourself, what is it? Why do people follow somebody like that? That's diametrically opposed to maybe perhaps what the common decency is.
Sure.
Okay, look, she used the word deplorable. What does that mean? I feel better than all them. Mm-hmm. And so do my friends that are in this elitism, that are the elites, and we're the only ones that know what's good for you.
And
in
we're
fact,
not-
what we
and-
do,
and we're
we know
not-
what you're going to have, whether
And
it's
we're
good
not,
or
we're not deplorable. You know.
Yeah, and they don't see that though. They see it as somebody they can well put strings on and be puppets. But these useful idiots, I mean, that's not something new. I mean, it goes clear back to Stalin in Russia, and
Yeah.
and back to Lenin.
Yeah.
You have to have these people brainwashed. You have to propaganda them, and you have to indoctrinate them.
And that's
so
what
that
they do. That's what communism does.
and that's
Yeah, exactly.
and otherwise it can't exist. It can't become a factor. Because what's the opposite of that is self-destiny, freedom. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're taught to be a victim, in other words, you've been exposed only in that regard. Well, then, if you're a victim, you're not responsible for yourself. So somebody else is responsible for you, right? So they victimize everything and everybody. You know. I mean, everybody becomes a victim. And I'll give you an example. Candace Owens the other day gave a speech.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, she gave a speech before a huge crowd. Mm-hmm. And she says, I want to see, I don't know how many were in there, thousands and thousands, mm-hmm. maybe 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, mm-hmm. I don't know. But she asked them, all those who had something bad happen to them, raise your hand. 100%. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then she says, all those that think you are a victim, raise your hand. Hardly any hands went up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the Democrats want to make everybody a victim.
Sure they do.
Because that's how you control it.
That's exactly right.
Because the victim feels like he's not responsible for what he did.
Come along with me, I'll take care of you.
Yeah, there you go. And that's how you rob people of freedom. That's how you take away freedom and make everybody a victim. Well, heck, if you're a victim, then you're not responsible for anything.
Yeah.
And you become to accept your way of life, your plight, whatever it happens to be. I don't care if it's what it is, but you accept it because you're a victim.
Isn't that sad?
And would there be any victims if there were
My
no
goodness.
Democrats? If there was no Democrats, would there be victims?
Absolutely not.
No, because would there be bad things happen to you? Of course. But would you be a victim? No hands go up.
Yeah.
You see what the difference?
Sure.
And that's what the Democrats are capable and have done. And I don't care, for some reason, when it comes to that, which is basic common sense, rationale, and reasonableness, and it comes to judgment, I'm telling you, it has It means nothing how much degrees you have, how much education you have, or so forth, because I'm seeing positive proof of that. Anytime you want to go on the internet and just listen to a walkaway, you're liable to see a highly educated walkaway. This gal the other day I listened
And like
to.
the guy you talked about earlier.
Or like
in
the
show.
guy I talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crosses all lines.
Crosses
That's what I
all
love.
lines. But,
Yeah.
but they have one thing in common, just like they have this common sense, and they come to that rationale of saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not falling for this. And they break out of it. And that's why it's called walk away, and they never come back. And I think that is what is happening in this country. And I think by 2020, when Trump runs, I think you're going to, well, his rating is the highest it's ever been now.
Oh, I know.
51%, the highest it's ever been.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Okay, now you and I sat there, and I was a little bit joking, not joking, but I was kind of like, maybe I'm popping off a little too soon, because I remember last summer when I told you right here on this show that you're going to see blacks at 35%,
And they're at 38 now, aren't they?
40%.
40 now? Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
Approval of Trump's presidency.
40, unbelievable.
Well, of course, 35% was unbelievable when you consider at one time, a year earlier, just 1 year, it was 17%.
Yeah, I remember when it was.
And then when the voting was being done, it was
People
like 8%.
are waking up, and we keep seeing that they're waking up.
Right.
Well, by the time he runs, I would not be surprised if his popularity was up at 70%.
Well, yeah, and it should be at 100.
Yeah.
Compared to what? Compared to what the alternative. Mm-hmm. Now, see what's happening and the effect he's having all over the world. The Brazilians just elected a leader, and he is a Trumper.
Yeah.
Okay? Italy just elected a leader, and he's a Trumper.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going on all over the world now. People are starting to recognize their country and make their country first.
Who started this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who started this?
Right. Well, and the point is, look who's carrying on with it. Now, let's talk about that caravan coming up.
Yeah.
That caravan is not full of people that are being oppressed in their country. These people are, I'd say a percentage of them are criminals.
Well, of course they are.
ISIS.
Yeah.
And
what better way to...
Or MS-13. Okay, we have evidence of that right here, right now, and it's close at home.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it till just recently. But that MS-13, they go into communities and they take over. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, you hear what's happening in New York and then all this, right? Mm-hmm. And they're cleaning those out.
Yeah.
Those people feel liberated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unsafe for them to let their children out. They're scared to death. They're afraid to go to the grocery store. They're all this. But once the MS-13 are out of there, this is like a war. They've been liberated.
Yeah.
We have a town right here that's totally taken over by MS-13, just outside of town.
What is it?
You been to Mendota?
Not lately. I used to go through there fishing all the time. I haven't been there, but I can believe that.
Mendota's had 11, I think it's 11, might be more, 11 murders.
Oh, my gosh.
The town only has 11,000 people.
Yeah, I was going to say, do they have 10,000 people? My goodness, are you kidding me?
Taken over by MS-13, and there was this girl who was going to testify as a witness at a murder
They killed her?
They killed her and chopped her into pieces and left her body lie.
As an example. Yeah, they got to go in there and wipe those.
Yeah, that's right there in Mendota. The mayor of Mendota is intimidated, scared to death. I mean, everybody, the police, everybody's intimidated because of MS-13. Now, think about the sanctuary cities.
Sure.
Which is a sanctuary state.
It's a sanctuary state.
So their hands
absolutely.
are tied in regard to that. Now, hopefully, I don't know, I thought maybe Trump might say something about it, but I hope Sessions goes in there with the ICE and cleans out that Mendota.
I'm glad you said that. We're going to keep, yeah. Yeah,
So-
this needs to stop. I had no idea.
Well, here's the thing, you kind of sit there and you think, well, yeah, that's over there, that's back east, that's here, that's not here. Yeah, it's right here down the road at Mendota.
15 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look up what's going on there. Now, you take this Fresno Bee, which is a Democrat rag, you know what I mean? You talk about a propaganda. How come they're not front page with something like that?
Oh, they're not going to talk about it.
And that's a disservice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So people,
Gary, I had no idea. That's amazing to me.
yeah, 11 murders in a town of 11,000.
Jeez, that's unreal.
You know, and then
So they've taken over, and so everybody. You know, we have a great sheriff in Margaret Mims. I'm sure she's working to do something about that. That's Fresno County, isn't it? Mendota.
I think so, but you see, their hands are tied with all this sanctuary.
Oh, I know
BS.
that. Yeah, I know her hands are tied.
And what if
like
there were
everybody else.
no Democrats? Would there be sanctuary cities?
No,
Of course not.
no,
Would there be law and order?
absolutely.
Would these people in Mendota have been living in the kind of fear that they're living in? Of course
because
not.
there wouldn't be any. What's the name of it? MS.
13. They come out of originally out of El Salvador, but they're also they're in this band of people coming up.
Yeah.
Now, those are young people. What's happening to the old folks and people like that in that caravan? They're picking. Mexico is picking those people up along the roadside because they can't go anymore
Yeah.
and hauling them back, but they're being filled in, where it's primarily young, in their 20s, late teens type people that's coming in here to invade this country is what it boils down to, and it's drugs, human trafficking, and gang that take over cities, such as they'll pick on a city like Mendota and then take the thing over.
You
Okay.
see, I don't watch. I very seldom watch the news anymore because it's so negative. I would have known about that girl. What an awful thing that they would do that and chop up her body and leave it as an example for people.
Yeah, and they'd also, and she was a witness, they also intimidate the jury. Imagine if you're on a jury on a murder trial and you're in Mendota. You're going to hear from MS-13, and you're not going to like what you hear. And your hands are tied, you're feared, right? And it may not be you personally, but it could be your daughter or your son or your wife or your mother or something. That's how they operate. And so what Trump wants to do is, of course, clean that out and
Good.
stop it before it gets here, and that's what the caravan's all about.
Yeah.
Okay, now, what Trump has said, what happened is those people weren't looking for asylum because they commandeered Mexico. You know what I mean? They rushed that border and they couldn't stop them. And Mexico offered them asylum, but they didn't accept it. You see? So if you're looking for safety, how come you didn't accept Mexico, but you're going to keep going on?
Because they want to come in here.
Exactly. And so what happened was, when they did that, they didn't come in peacefully. They threw rocks. In fact, there was one Mexican policeman killed.
But because they were throwing the rocks.
Rocks and so forth. So what Trump is going to do, he's put the military down there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about, I heard this, anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 people because they're building a tent city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Building tents. Okay, now, what Trump has said, you come in here, they're going to have fences and all that, but if you come here and start throwing rocks and bricks and whatever at our soldiers and our Border Patrol and our police, he says, we're going to consider those rocks and bricks as guns.
Good. Good.
In other
That's
words,
what we should do.
he's not sending his soldiers down there to get maimed
Yeah.
by these guys.
Yeah.
So there's going to be retribution. Okay, now let's say that you walk in here illegally in the past, and you got released, and then you appear at a court for your plea for asylum.
Mm-hmm.
You never show up. It might be years before you actually get a court date.
Yeah.
You're not going to go show up. You just go and get in the United States communities.
Sure.
All right? Okay, now this time around, those people are not going to be released. They're going to be captured or catch, and there's no release. It's catch and hold.
Yeah.
So where do they hold them? They're going to hold them in those tents that are being built, which is quite frankly better than what some of the impoverished homes they believe in.
Yeah.
But they're going to, and then they're going to be processed and boom, sent right back, deported. We have right now a pretty good knowledge of a lot of people that are in this country who are illegal. And those people are being hunted down and they're being deported.
Yeah.
Also, Ray, something I didn't realize. I guess I just didn't pay attention. But they have it's like a tourism birth or something they call it.
What's it called?
It's involved with tourism birthright or
Oh,
something.
okay. Oh,
What-
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah.
I heard a little something about that.
Yeah, where people get in an airplane where the wife's about to have a baby and she comes in the United States, has that baby immediately is an American citizen.
Yeah.
Then China's doing that
Yeah.
big time. In fact, right now, Chinese getting Chinese birthrights, American citizens.
Yeah.
It's as big as the Mexicans that are coming in.
I didn't know that. That's something I didn't know.
I didn't either till just the other day. You see. Well, you got to ask yourself: would you have a caravan if there was no Democrats? Would you have that kind of
No.
nonsense if there was no Democrats? It's pretty serious stuff when you get to thinking about
Absolutely, it is.
what is happening that is challenging your freedom, your right to live safely, to expect safety, and to expect prosperity, to expect to be free to do what it is you want. What is it about a Democrat that offers you that?
They don't.
You don't have any of that. And why would you want to have it otherwise? Why would you want to live similar to what these socialist countries are living that do not have the freedoms that you do, including the freedom of prosperity or the future?
Yeah.
Now, what are you doing sitting in a ghetto? My God, that should have ended. You know where that should have ended? It should have ended the day Abraham Lincoln had that proclamation.
it.
Yeah.
Emancipation Proclamation. Absolutely, Gary.
And the day that slave walked out of that
Plantation.
left that home out of that plantation, was the day he was freed. How come he's still not free? I mean, we're talking about in categories.
Yeah, I know.
But how do we make it that way? We make it that way because we make it dependent. Why? Because you're a victim.
Yeah.
Why are you a victim? It's because you've been taught to be a victim.
Sure.
You've been indoctrinated to be one, and others begin to look at you as a victim.
You know what? Every time I talk to a liberal person, I get. I had another girl approach me at the gym the other day, and I'm working out, and she's staring at my Trump shirt, and she goes like this. She says, "Why?
Yeah.
And I said, "Why not?
Yeah.
You explain to me why not."
Yeah.
And she just went like this, and she walked away because she couldn't explain that.
No,
to
they
me.
can't.
Just like it was impossible.
If you ask them the question, what is that Trump wants for you?
I love this
and,
question.
And for the American people, and for America that you don't want for yourself. How do they answer? They can't answer that.
That's a great question, Gary. It is. I've used that too.
And I'll tell you that, and more people are waking up, but it still is discouraging though to hear when you hear about. You expect so much more.
Yeah.
When you're talking about somebody that's a professor at a college
Yeah.
or a university and thinks the way they do, it blows you away.
Well, it's sad because then you know that he's passing on his ideology
Right.
to everybody else.
And then you
he's teaching
think,
it.
well, what's making that person tick?
Yeah.
I mean, and when you compare two people, I'm going to take that kid that I saw the other day on the video that was
Okay.
talking to the gang. Well, he was talking to an opposing gang, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way he was talking to it
I
was,
wish I'd seen
well,
that.
there was nothing polished about it at all,
Yeah.
with all the four-letter words and all
yeah.
this. But he was getting his point, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, now there's a kid. Now put that professor over here and
Mm-hmm.
let him talk.
Yeah.
And you're going to look at that kid and you're going to say, my God, that kid's making all the sense in the world. This professor, he makes zero sense.
Very interesting point.
And you start looking around and you start analyzing for yourself. And we have evidence, when you see cockamamie, like, for instance, this catastrophic forest fires, and there's proof that would not be. And then you look around and you see this big California with a water shortage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. Take away the libtards, take away the Democrats, and see what you have. You know, like our gasoline. Okay.
Yeah, there's another thing.
Okay. Why is it that you can go to another state and go buy gas and it's at least $1 cheaper? Why is it $1 higher here? It should be the other way around.
Perfect example is California and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know, when I went back to Oklahoma, I was shocked. you know how you go past an
Yeah.
old service station here in Fresno, and they've got the old prices up there?
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was seeing in Oklahoma. I thought, oh, that station must be closed. I could not believe. And they're $1.50 less a gallon back in Oklahoma.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
Now, why? It actually should be cheaper here because our oil is right offshore here.
absolutely.
It should be cheaper here,
Yeah.
not more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you're talking about a state that's in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, you start looking at and applying a common sense look at it instead of an emotional look at it. You say, well, wait a minute, you know, this doesn't make sense. You know, I come in here like this bullet train.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, Ray, I'm all for bullet trains. However, not the way these guys make bullet trains. I mean, you go to China and have them put a bullet train in.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing. In fact, you go back to where they have the machinery. They make the machinery for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to put the tracks and all that. And I think I want to say France or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
My God, they had this bullet train back 10 years ago, and
No.
and you're still probably 20 years away, if ever.
Not only that, they are never, ever going to pay for that thing.
I was thinking about that. My God, they'd have to charge you, Christ,
Never.
$10,000 a ticket.
Yeah, they're
No.
never going to pay for it. It's
Well, they're
never
not going
gonna
to
be
pay for it. It's a boondoggle the way it's done. However, it had been done properly, that's a different story.
I would like for Jerry Brown to stand up in front of the California people and and explain the bullet train and explain the benefits, because I haven't seen any yet. The regular Amtrak stops at the Grapevine.
Yeah.
This thing stops at the Grapevine. What's the difference?
Well, Ray,
You know?
here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with a bullet train. Japan's proved it. China's proved it. It's the methodology
Well, sure it
that
is.
these guys do that makes no common sense to it. That's the difference. You know, I mean, I've seen. In fact, France can lay a track, and they can do 20 miles a day. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Because in 10 days, that's 200 miles.
yeah.
That's how fast they're going with that machine, and they got a video of it. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about getting from here to Bakersfield in what, 5 days? And look how long it's taken them.
Oh yeah.
Now we got some really stupid people, unfortunately, that have
Powers to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and somehow they got and received the the votes of the people. That
Sure.
I know we talk about go out and vote. Please, you people that haven't got sense, the good Lord gave a chicken, please do not vote, because really they shouldn't vote because they don't know what they're doing. They should be disqualified because that's an unintelligent vote.
Maybe there should be a license to vote, like there's a license to drive. You know, you gotta pass this, and this.
Well, I
before
think.
you're even
Well,
allowed
why,
to vote,
why,
you know?
why shouldn't there be?
You know, yeah.
I mean, what's more important than your vote?
Yeah.
What's more important than keeping America free? Who is really capable of keeping America free? Only one thing that keeps America free, and that's the people who live here, who are citizens. We're the ones that are ultimately the answer as to whether it is not the politician, not even Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's we the people.
We the people.
Yep.
Which is
Ray, I want to hear some more about Lewis,
about what?
about your buddy. What's the name?
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Stan Filgus. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know, I don't even know where to begin with Stan. You know, he's always been wonderful to me. And he's been like a dad to me. He's just a wonderful person. And it reflects in his children and his grandchildren. Now, I don't know a lot of his grandchildren very well, other than Paul and Matt, who are just wonderful. They're just like him, you know. His daughter Janelle, she retired, just a super lady, you know, and all the rest of his children, and his children are married to one. His other daughter is married to Mark Glenn, who is by far the best realtor, one of the best realtors in this town, and just brilliant people and wonderful people. I've been to all of their homes for like holidays and stuff, and they welcome you. They make you feel a part of their family, and it all comes from Stan. It all does. He was he laid carpet and did flooring for the biggest builders in this town, all of them, Bonadelli, McCaffrey, Wilson, all those people. I mean, you will find Filgus carpet in all those homes, and he was ultra successful in everything he did, and he's a perfectionist. I mean, I've seen him do things that are just, I mean, when he does something, it's the old-fashioned way, and it's done well, you know. And there's just, I don't even know where to start with him. I love his stories. I mean, he, you know, you were a pilot, so you can just, it just amazes me that a 17-year-old kid was a gunnery's mate, and he was told me stories, and kamikazes coming in. I mean, I'd have been running, jumping off the ship, you know. This guy is, I don't know anybody tougher than Stan Filgus. He's a tough guy, and yet the other side of him is gentle and passionate and just wonderful, you know. I hope you're having a good day, Stan. I'm going to come see you now that I know where you're at. I had no idea that you'd moved until today when I called Mark to ask him about making you our American Patriot, which you are. You are definitely, you're what this country's all about, you and Gene. Gene, I hope you're feeling better. I understand you were a little bit under the weather, and I hope that things are, I pray that things will get better for both of you, and I'm certain they will. I really am. God bless both of you. I love you very much. You have done a wonderful job with your children. They're all successful. You should be very proud of what you've done, because you've done the ultimate. You could go on and on about this man. I was like a little kid when I'm always like a little kid when I'm around Stan, because he tells these stories, man, and he's funny, he's hilarious, and his stories, he'll have a whole room full of people laughing, and they're great stories, you know, and they're true stories, and they're just wonderful. He went back a couple of years ago for that visit where they took all the World War II people back. I forgot the name of the program. You remember it? Yeah. And he and his brother. Oh, good. Yeah, he and his brother Al. Al was in the Air Force, his older brother. I think Al was a couple of years older than he is. But both of them were just two wonderful people. And I don't know if you're going to the veterans thing this year. I hope you are. If you need someone to take you, I hope you call me, because I certainly will do that. I've gone with him before, and we've sit out there, and everybody knows him. You know, I mean, the guys are driving down the thing, and they're yelling at Stan on the side. You know, that's how popular he is. And I just want to say that I love you, Stan, and I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. You know. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3:58, like it always is when Gary comes here. Time flies by. I mean, Gary keeps us all informed, and I love having him on the show. You know, every week I ask you to please go out, and when you see a law enforcement officer, go up and shake his hand and tell him how much we appreciate him. They have a thankless job, and they appreciate it so very much. Today, in fact, I'm walking in Walmart, and this policeman comes out, and he says, "I remember you." And he comes over, and he beat me to the punch. He had his hand out before I could get by him. Oh, right. And he said, so it's coming full blast now that they recognize that I'm doing this, and people are doing this. Gary's doing this. I had a friend that did it the other day. My most fun thing was the little blonde lady who was in a big police SUV, those SUVs. And I said that to her, and she says, "Wait a minute." And she got out, came around, and hugged me. So all these people are driving down the street. It's out there on the north side of town. And here's this little bitty blonde policeman hugging this big black guy like this. And people are, it was quite a scene. I wish I could have stepped back and watched it from afar. But, you know, they do, like I said, they have a thankless job. So take time, go up, shake their hands, tell them that we appreciate them, because we do. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great show. I'm so glad you've been with me today. Thank you very much. Thumbs up to Stan Filgus. And until we meet again joyously next Friday at 3 p.m., heaven's blessings.
CentralValleyTalk.com